Hello and welcome to Cafecito y Calidad, where we have quality conversations over coffee. I'm your host, Elizabeth Sanchez, licensed marriage and family therapist. On today's episode, I have a dear friend of mine. Today's guest is a holistic practitioner, and she is going to be talking about all things holistic healing, Reiki, sound bath, and maybe a little bit of breath work. We'll see if we can throw it in there. So we have Lizette from Florecera, and she is going to be diving into all things holistic healing. So welcome to Cafecito y Calidad, Lizette. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. We were able to finally do this.
Yes, it's been a long time coming, and I've been a big fan of your work, and I see what you're doing. You're lots of great sound baths. You have taught me a lot about holistic wellness tools, and I think it's time for you to share it with my community. So, before we get started, I know that you got your cafecito. So, can I ask you, how do you take your coffee?
So I usually have it black, but
Okay.
today I added oat milk with agave.
Oh.
And if I buy coffee out at a coffee shop, then I like to buy a lavender latte with oat milk. That's my favorite wherever I go.
Yes, and we've actually shared one before. I know that we had one that when I went into Long Beach, we went to Good Times, and it was
Yes,
so good.
it was delicious. I know. I love it.
So great. So Lizette, let's dive in. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and maybe a little bit about what got you into this line of work?
Yes. So again, I'm Lizette. I'm the creator of Florecera Wellness. I teach mindful practices such as sound meditation, yoga, Reiki, and breath work. I like to combine all modalities to help calm the mind and share tools. And what really got me started into this work was it mainly stems from my teenage years. Growing up, I was very confused, experienced symptoms of depression, anxiety. I was very angry growing up, but it was, how do I say, it was in secret. So in front of everyone else, I was happy, but really I was in a dark place in my mind. So that motivated me to go to therapy. And from therapy, that sparked an
Mhm.
interest in everything else. So that sparked Reiki, yoga, um, sound. It was actually yoga that sparked the interest of sound. And it was my therapist that sparked the interest of Reiki. She introduced everything to me. That's how it started.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's something maybe our younger selves connected on because I was a very also angry adolescent who also came, we'll dive into it later, but who kind of hid it, had to kind of keep it inside. So it sounds like these methods really helped that version of yourself. Was that?
Yes, completely. It
Mhm.
was definitely a learning experience of myself.
Yes.
Yeah, all of this really helped me connect to my true self, my authentic self. Really showed me how I can pour into myself and no longer have these experiences or thought patterns that I used to experience.
Wonderful. So I think that leads into our topic today. We're going to be talking about holistic healing methods versus traditional talk therapy. So, since we've both been in therapy and now integrating some of these holistic healing methods, I think it's going to be really interesting to share first of all, like what is traditional talk therapy and what are some of these holistic healing methods that, like, why are they so different? But yet there are a lot of stigma behind both. And I'm sure we're going to dive into the controversies around those. So, um, let's talk about, Lizette, how do they differ? What is, traditional and holistic healing methods?
Yeah, so from my personal experience, the talk therapy,
Yeah.
usually my sessions would go as like, what brings you in for today? What happened
Yes.
this week? So
Yes.
I'll share about what happened throughout that week. Maybe I, reframe my mindset of whatever I happen to experience, or if we're going into deep work, going into the root cause of what happened, what I experienced that week, or whatever came up as far as emotions.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. And I agree too. I think that being a therapist myself, it is very much cognitive. And I think what I mean by cognitive is a lot of thinking in your traditional talk therapy. When one of the things I've noticed with holistic healing methods, it is very much a mind, body, soul practice where you are helping the individual holistically, um, versus just right traditional therapy, maybe just addressing the thought process, what happened during the day, being, very surface at times. Would you agree with that, or do you resonate with that at all,
I,
Lizette?
I definitely resonate. From my experience of holistic modality, it's more, what is the intention that I want to address today? And I agree that it's mind, body, spirit. After a session, my body systems recalibrate. So I feel a lot lighter, physically, mentally, emotionally. I would say that's the major difference where I feel back to balance. Versus in my experience of therapy, I'm like, okay, something else resurfaced from this. And now this is the new thing that I'm going to talk about the following week. So many more things that I have to work through.
Yes, yeah, I definitely agree. And being a trauma therapist, and I specialize, and I've shared this on the podcast, I specialize in EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, for those of you who are not familiar with it. When I was first using traditional talk therapy, Lizette, I just noticed that my clients would say, "Yes, I'm going to use the tools." And then they would come in again the next session and like they often didn't use them. They're like, "Oh, I forgot what we even talked about," or, you know, "What did we talk about?" Like, so there's all these different things that would happen in between sessions. And as I researched and studied trauma, one of the things that I realized is that really do start processing trauma when we activate or we access the limbic system. And in the limbic system, and you can probably speak to this too, Lizette, is that that's where our trauma is stored. There's really no language connected to that limbic system. And so I feel like that's why holistic healing methods are so beneficial, is that they are more somatic. They are able to help the client go deeper and to experience those blocked emotions, those memories that have been stored in the body.
No, definitely. So, for example, I'm going to use sound and yoga into this. So, certain movements help release stored trauma that we have in our body. Because although it's this thought pattern, eventually that transfers into our body. So, sound, it helps with our brain waves slow down to help slow our mind versus the yoga movements. It's releasing everything that we're stored. And that's where we can have this major release that we've been holding on to.
Beautiful. What are the benefits of using holistic healing methods in combination with talk therapy? Well, one of the things that as a therapist I do is if we're processing through EMDR, we're processing a major life experience or just a stressor, that we are releasing a lot of those emotions in therapy. We're releasing what's being stored, maybe from years of not talking about this. And so, what I often do is I encourage my clients to, like, hey, have you considered sound? Have you considered Reiki? Have you considered breath to continue processing this outside, to see if we can continue to release what's being stored? And Lizette, the amount of great feedback that I get back from my clients after, they're like, wow, that was really helpful. Because usually, if you're processing very deep experiences, you can get really dysregulated, meaning like you can feel overwhelmed, you can feel highly anxious. So combining the two go hand in hand. What are your thoughts, Lizette?
Oh, definitely, because it's focusing on the whole umbrella of our wellness, our emotional, our physical, our spiritual, our mental.
Mm-hmm.
So combining all of those together, like you can make such a profound progress within yourself. Um, and possibly invite emotions that you haven't really experienced before. And what I mean by that is more positive emotions, but also have an understanding of self.
Mm-hmm.
So often I feel like we don't truly feel connected to ourselves, and when we are connected to our full selves, we have an increased awareness. And so that way, when we process certain emotions or experiences, we know how to retract back to feel back to balance. But of course, doing all the work with all of these modalities, traditional and holistic.
Mm-hmm. So if we had somebody who was completely new to sound or Reiki, how would you introduce this, Lizette? Because there is still, right, a stigma both in therapy and with holistic healing methods to really seek them out.
Excuse me. So, sound is a meditative experience. And in that meditative experience, you are in a trance state. So, you're not necessarily asleep or fully awake. But in this trance state, you're able to tap into your subconscious mind, able to experience a calm mind, release dense emotions. And the way I like to describe it simply is, how do you feel when you listen to your favorite music that relaxes you? So, for example, some people
Mm,
like jazz. I like to listen to jazz when I'm cleaning, and I feel really relaxed. Although I'm moving, I'm more in a relaxed state versus stressful, like, oh, I have to get this clean. And sound baths do the exact same thing for you. They put you in a relaxed state. When you're in a relaxed state, that's when your heart rate slows down. You're able to experience the state of calmness, harmony with yourself. Another simple way of describing it is seeing it as an adult nap, because during the experience,
ooh,
you are lying down with a blanket, pillow. I always suggest having an eye mask, and that's just so that you have the full experience. So that's the simplest way I can describe it.
mhm.
So listening to your favorite relaxing music or an adult nap. That's the experience of a sound bath.
Yes, yes. And do you often get, and this is just for some people who may be like on the fence and that they are still kind of hesitant, like may something come up while I'm having that experience? May I cry? May I feel a lot more emotional? Does that ever happen? Is that?
Yes. Everyone is always like, what should I do? Do I need to do anything? And I always like to say there's no wrong or right way to experience a sound bath. um, really just allow yourself to experience whatever you need to. If you need to cry, allow yourself to cry. If you just need deep rest, allow yourself to have that deep rest. Listen to your body, whatever it needs. I've had someone in the past that just felt like they needed to laugh. And the entire session, she
Oh.
was trying to hold in her giggle. She's like, I just experienced so much joy, so I needed to laugh. So if that's what you need to experience, allow that to happen. Just whatever needs to flow. So that's what I like to say. No wrong or right way to experience a sound bath.
Hmm. Yes. And what type of people do you often see benefit from this? Like, what kind of problems can be alleviated through sound and Reiki?
Um, I definitely invite those that are experiencing a lot of stress, life changes, seeking a little bit of clarity within whatever journey they're on, um, or even experiencing a lot of blockages within their body. You know, when we're not in an balanced
Mm,
state, there's a lot of blockages. If that's in our throat, maybe we're not speaking up for ourselves. We're not opening our heart, so we're not expressing kindness to ourselves or others. um, Definitely, blockages will show up differently, brain fog. So definitely any
mm,
major life changes, lots of stress, or possibly needing a little bit more clarity, or just feeling back to
yeah,
balance again.
yeah. As coming back to the work as a therapist, and one of the things I do incorporate are like the chakras
Mhm.
into my sessions with clients. And sometimes I will see, like, I'll incorporate color, like, what color are you seeing, or where you have that blockage. And often, they'll share if there is a blockage, the color. And I think sometimes I will often refer to someone like yourself to, like, hey, there's a lot of things going on with your chakras. You might want to seek somebody who can maybe help you a little bit further with this. And the feedback I get is I felt so much relief. I felt like there was something blocking me. And so I don't know if you could speak to that, because the blockage comes up a lot. Like, I feel blocked, I feel stuck in my life. I feel like I don't have a sense of direction.
Okay, yes, definitely. And I'm so happy to hear that you incorporate that in your sessions.
Oh, yes, all the time.
Yeah, and also the use of colors, they can represent something completely different to one
Mhm,
other person than another. So, for example,
mhm.
purple, the color purple is gratitude to me, versus blue
Mm,
is peace and acceptance, but that can mean something completely different to someone else. And I've noticed that sound can bring up a lot of colors to people, but same thing, it means something completely different to that individual. But yeah, bringing up the chakras. So that is our energy center. So we have them throughout
mm,
our body. And when we have those blockages, we can't experience life with complete joy.
mm,
And when we have them balanced, we are able to experience life with joy, creativity. So, for example, let's just say the root chakra. When that one is out of balance, we're going to feel very dysregulated, on edge. Or let's just say our throat, we're probably going to hold in a lot of things that we want to say and not speak our truth. So, Reiki, coming back to Reiki, that is something that can help balance all of our energy centers so that we are able to fully feel back into balance.
mm,
And I know some people are skeptical of Reiki, but really, Reiki is energy. So it is a energy practice modality, excuse me. And energy is everywhere. So the
mhm,
mountains, they're made up of so many different things, but they're filled with energy. It's in trees, plants, everything. And so what Reiki is, um, universal life force energy brought into the practitioner's palms, and that is transmitted back to the individual to help you bring back into balance. And that is the simplest way to explain Reiki. It's not tied to anything. It's really just working with energy that is surrounded in the universe.
This is a very controversial practice, but it can be a very, I'm sorry, not practice, right? Is that it's a modality,
Mm.
correct? I want to make sure. Yes. So I know that Reiki is a very controversial modality. However, it does come with a lot of its benefits. There is a lot of benefit. We are energy, right? There is a lot of energy in our universe. So could you talk a little bit about the overview on Reiki?
Oh, yes. So Reiki is um, a energy modality. So we're working with,
Hmm.
yes, we're working with energy, life force energy that is within all of us.
Okay.
It is surrounded everywhere. Um, so really, it's to help bring us back to a balanced state. Reiki doesn't have to be tied to anything. Because we're working with energy, basically we're connecting with everything around us, the stars, the moon, the trees. And, when we're back into a balanced state, that is when we're able to experience the full joy of life. Um, and very similar to sound, it just allows you to be fully relaxed so you can feel fully connected to yourself. So the way a Reiki session would look like is, you set an intention for whatever journey you
Mm,
would like to set. For example, let's just say I come to you and I say, I would like to experience more peace throughout my
mm,
day in my life. So that would be the intention of the session. Um, so together with the client and the practitioner, we would set that intention. I am experiencing more peace in my life. And I help get you into a relaxed state by just some gentle breathing. And you are lying down during the session. And after that, through my palms, I transmit the energy onto the client. And a session typically takes about 40 to an hour, 40 minutes,
mm,
an hour. And after that, I guide you back in a gratitude meditation to bring you back to the present moment. And so it's a very relaxing experience. And once the person comes back to the present moment, we just discuss like, is there anything that you experience? Um, did anything come up for you? And depending what the client expresses, we also work through something that can benefit them outside of the session. So possibly a breathing technique that they can use daily, maybe a writing prompt. Um, also, um, I also always follow up just to make sure nothing comes up. It is common for people to just feel very tired after, when we work our mind, throughout our times, and then we finally are able to come into a relaxed state. Naturally, you might feel a little bit tired, or because you are completely relaxed. So really, that's what Reiki is. It helps you come into a relaxed state.
mm. I love that too. The way you talked about that you do feel more tired, because you are entering that. Let's talk about like the parasympathetic nervous system, right? We are entering that. And as a therapist, I feel like that's beneficial because that's also when trauma tends to come up.
Hmm.
Because if we're in that fight or flight, we're just focusing on getting through our day, get surviving. But when somebody does use one of these modalities, they are able to access more.
Mhm.
They're able to, wow, I didn't realize that was really in there. Now I can process it with a therapist and see if I can work through that. So I think that was really great. Um, from personal experience with, and when I've done EMDR and my therapist was knowledgeable around chakras and Reiki, one of the things that she did do was ask me what color I noticed
Mhm.
in my throat because I was where I was feeling the sensations, and it was blue, and I didn't know. And she's like, "Oh, I'll look up the chakras," and it was like words left unsaid or not using my voice enough. And when I realized that, like, I just noticed all this energy being released that had been stored here. Um, so I do think that they go hand in hand, like coming back to that conversation, like what makes them different, but what also brings us back to why they are so similar.
Oh no, definitely. I actually had a very similar experience as to you.
Okay.
I had a blocked throat chakra. And,
Okay.
I felt my first Reiki experience actually, I felt like I was suffocated for just a few seconds. And that let me know, like, okay, I am not speaking up for myself. After it was cleared and released, that gave me the knowing, okay, I need to set boundaries. So in my therapy session, I brought up, I
Um,
don't have great boundaries. I need to set boundaries and speak up for myself. So they just tied beautifully together. And that's what I work through, boundaries.
that was mine too, not using my voice, speaking up, setting boundaries. It's in the theme of my sessions. But I didn't realize that. I was like, wow, this is like so, and even us talking about it, I feel it in my throat. I'm like, okay, I need to continue to process this or continue to talk about it because my throat chakra has been like for many years. And now I'm starting to find my voice, starting to really come into my own self. So, oh, go ahead, Lizette.
I'm happy you mentioned that. So I am still working through this where I am so
It's a process, everyone.
it definitely is. So, no, it's a lifelong process. But even now, like if I set a boundary, I'm like, was I too harsh? I feel a little bit guilty. It's I'm doing it, but I feel a certain way after setting the boundary. I have this,
Yes.
sort of this guilty feeling like, was I being mean? And that's the
Yeah.
people pleaser in me.
Which, I think this is also what's so great about these two, so the modalities and, therapy is that somebody might have never been to therapy. They get that throat chakra cleared up, or, there's that blockage. They can come to therapy and they can begin to process tools that they can use. And it seems like maybe that was your experience where, like, okay, now I'm clear. What do I do now? Can
Yes.
you teach me how to set boundaries? Can you teach me how to communicate a lot better? Like now I need that. So I think that's also something to kind of keep in mind that they do go hand in hand. And it's a lifelong process. I'm still working on setting boundaries. I'm still working on regulating myself once I set a boundary or I am assertive with somebody. It's still uncomfortable. However, right, I'm the more I've been doing it, the more I've been healing, the easier it's been getting. So, but we don't heal alone. We need all these tools to help us, right? Liz?
Yes, definitely. And sometimes these tools, like shifting what works for you and what doesn't, and finding what works for you. But having these tools helped me navigate what works best for me and what doesn't. And it's been a beautiful experience of learning all of these emotions that I didn't know I can possibly experience because prior to all of this, I just felt um, emotionally blocked because I just held so much in. And, starting this journey of healing. I was going through emotional roller coasters. Like I was happy one day, sad because there was so much being poured out, so much that I was stored in, and then finally everything releasing and experiencing other things like self love. I didn't even know that was possible before, but yeah, it's been a beautiful journey combining everything together and just learning about myself.
Yes, yes. Lizette, I think, would you be comfortable sharing maybe of a difficult time where, so I know you mentioned your adolescence and that's kind of when you were introduced to these modalities, but has there been a time in your life where you really needed, you know, some support, you really needed to process, and you used a combination of all of them to help you work through that specific situation?
Yes. So this was a few years ago where I actually thought I was okay. Um,
Mm,
so I was going to talk therapy at that time, and I thought, oh, I'm okay because I'm going to therapy. I'm doing the work. Everything is fine.
yeah.
Um, but in reality, I was not okay. I felt so confused in life because I felt like I had no purpose on this earth.
Mm,
So I sort of questioned my reality of why am I here? Like why am I existing if I have no purpose? So that was my thought back then a few years ago. Um and so I was journeying a lot these thoughts, but I wasn't really coming to a resolution.
mm,
And my sister, no one knew what I was going through. I just held it in. Although I wanted the support, I have a difficult time asking for support
mm,
because I want to be strong, independent, and wanted to just work through everything on my own. And also because I didn't know what to really bring up. I didn't know what
mhm,
should I actually ask
yeah,
for. Um, and also because I had everything I needed. I had a roof over my head, I had family, I had food, I had my basic needs met. So to me, I felt guilty. Like, why should I feel this way when I have everything that I need? There's no reason to feel this way. Um, so fast forward, a year later, my sister invited me to a sound bath with two of my cousins, and at that time, I just completely let go and cried my little heart out because it was the first time I had experienced self love for myself and this moment of peace. Um, so at that time, I realized it came to my awareness, okay, I need to really, that's what I need to focus on. So that way I can feel that sense of purpose, belonging to here. Like I can make a meaningful life.
mhm.
Um, yeah, it was the most beautiful experience that I've ever had. And that was what I brought up to my therapist at that time. I was like, actually, I'm not being completely honest with you. This
Wow.
was my thoughts, but I thought I would be okay. But this is actually what I'm experiencing. And yeah, together through talk therapy, through introducing these new modalities, I was able to shift through that. I no longer feel like I don't have a sense of purpose. I now know my purpose here on earth. I still want to exist, give myself to serve fully.
Wow. So that's very powerful. That, that touched my heart because I think that a lot of us are going through this world like, oh, we're fine. Almost like we have to keep this guard up or this shield to protect ourselves. And I think that that shows the beauty of these modalities is that when you allow yourself to let go and you're open to it, your true authentic self really does come up, right? Those parts of you that are really not okay. And you are able to give them an opportunity to be seen and heard and to opportunity to heal.
No, definitely. Yeah, anyone that is, struggling, feeling that they're not okay, honestly, I invite you to try everything and anything and see, how
Yes.
beautiful life can be, how you can, I don't know, experience the beauty in all of these different life experiences. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I know it's hard for so many of us to ask for the support, but just, asking for support, like, hey, I'm interested in this. Can you come with me? Or
Mm,
whatever it is, just trying everything and anything. Yeah, life is meant to be fully lived and experienced. We have only one life on this earth. Why not make it the most beautiful human experience?
beautiful. So I know that we've dived in and we've talked a lot about how beautiful these practices are, these modalities, talk therapy and holistic healing methods. But I think we need to also dive into the controversies of holistic healing and therapy because coming from a Latin background, there's not always a negative view on both. Would you agree? Is that
Let me take a sip of coffee. I agree.
before we dive in before we dive into the
Let's sip
tea?
this coffee. Okay.
Oh my, there's like a list of things that just pop up from my and mind around just how I think that we have, I'm going to preface, we have come a long way,
Mhm.
was that, but there are still, at least from what I've heard, like if you go to therapy, you are crazy or it is local. Why do I need to go talk to somebody about my problems? And if we dive into it a little deeper, why am I going to go see somebody for Reiki or sound bath? That's witchcraft. That's like something that you go if you are into all of that bad healing or there's just so many things that I'm sure you can speak to, but I'm curious, like what's been your experience?
So, my dad has mentioned that therapy is for crazy people. At
Mm-hmm.
that time, he had no idea I was going to therapy. So, in my mind, I thought, your daughter is going to therapy. What do you think of your daughter? um, or when he found out everything that I'm doing with sound, yoga, Reiki, he said, are are you a bruja? And I'm like, no, of course not. So the funny thing is, sound is everywhere.
Yes.
We're surrounded by sound. Right now, at least in Long Beach, it's windy and it was raining. The rain is sound. The brushing of the leaves, that is sound. Um, so anyone that is skeptical of Reiki and sound, place your palms together, feel the warmth. That
Mm-hmm.
is your energy. That is Reiki. Reiki is energy. Breathe into it. If you're breathing, inhaling, exhaling, that is energy. Walk outside, close your eyes, just, listen to your surroundings. That is sound. So we're all surrounded by all of these things. It is not witchcraft because it's a part of our daily life. Um, Sound, I'm just using instruments to replicate our natural environment. So I use ocean drum, rain stick, it's, bringing back the ocean, bringing back rain. Um, Reiki, I'm just helping you lie down and facilitating so you can experience your own energy. So It is not witchcraft. It's not tied to anything because it's all around us. We're surrounded by it all the time. Therapy, it's our mind. We're working with our mind.
Right.
What would you do without your mind?
I tell folks, you go to the doctor because you have diabetes, you get medication, right? And it helps, right? So that's our physical. We often forget that our mental health is important. Our mind is connected to our body, to our soul, to our spirit, and it's all interconnected, but there is still, it's so unfortunate. We're getting there, but that is for crazy, para locos, and it's not. And you don't have to go to therapy just to, if you're going through a difficult time, you can go if, as a preventative measure as well. If you are planning to take a next step in your career, family planning, if you are planning to get married and want to make sure that you're addressing key points, go to therapy. It's an opportunity, it's a safe space, non-judgmental place for you to just let it out, allow yourself to be true and communicate what you truly feel. So it's not for crazy people. So I think that what we're doing here, that is, we really are destigmatizing these modalities that many people still have. It's like a taboo, right?
No, definitely. And, for the therapy, how you mentioned that it's a preventative, I still go once a week. That's a non negotiable for me because I want to feel my best self. I want to feel
Hmm.
well. And especially if you're, in a field where you're helping other people, it's really important to always, feel good and work through whatever it is that you're going through instead of just allowing it to happen and allowing yourself to feel dysregulated. And
Hmm.
also, we have made a lot of progress. I believe on the freeway, I can't remember which freeway, but there's a billboard of therapy. And I'm like, wow, we have
Oh,
made progress. That's amazing.
we have, we have. I still remember going back to our when we went out for coffee and we were talking about this, and I think one of the things that I feel connected to you about is that we are both very in tune with our emotions and our body. And one of the things that you mentioned is I go into some of these sessions and I feel everything. I've started to cough at one point, and I think that as practitioner, I feel I'm very similar. I can instantly feel somebody's energy. I can feel the heaviness in the room. I can feel when somebody feels lighter. So I think if you are a practitioner or a facilitator who is doing this work, we have to do it ourselves too, because our body feels it. We are carrying so many people's energy that we also burn out, and we need to fill our tanks. We need to heal.
No, definitely. I think it is common, like if you're helping people to feel overwhelmed or drained because of all this
Uh,
different stories that you're possibly hearing maybe on your end, and then me different energies that I'm feeling all the time. So yes, it's definitely important to always pour into ourselves if we're helping and guiding other people.
mhm. Yes, wonderful. Which I think leads into our event that we are co-hosting. It's been a long time coming, but as you all hear our stories and why we decided to go into the field that we did, Lizette, you can definitely share about your experience. I will share a little bit about what led me to want to, um, you know, collaborate with you around this. So these last couple years have come with its challenges. I I am a mother. I branched out of a partnership, and it's all been very stressful. I've been very blessed. I've had a lot of great things happen, but I've also encountered some very stressful situations, and I was feeling kind of burned out. Like I'm not really pouring into my own cup. I'm there for those around me, and I'm kind of feeling tired. I'm feeling, low energy. And I said, you know what? Let me pause here. And I know I reached out to you and I said, hey, I think it was at our coffee. That coffee date was really great because
Yeah,
I think
I
we were
love
able to really we were able to really talk about these things. And I think you mentioned, yeah, I'm feeling similar, and we're working on recharging. And I said, I'm sure that there's other people going through this. I feel like last year a lot of people went through this. Like they went through a lot of changes in their lives and feeling kind of worn out this year. So then we got together and we're like, let's do it. If we're feeling this way, I'm sure others are having similar experience. So I was like, let's combine the beauty of mental health and holistic healing methods and let's do this. And so, what are your thoughts, Lizette? Is that something you experienced too last year?
it.
Just really difficult?
So, very similar to you, I've had major life changes. I also branched out of a partnership. I went through a long term breakup. So, I felt like I was just purging everything that was not serving me or feeling in alignment with me. And, naturally, changes can be stressful. So I felt like I had to do a little bit more to pour into myself. I wasn't feeling as connected to myself. So I felt the need to recharge and just have a reset. And I know during our coffee date, we're like, yeah, we need to recharge and invite other people that are recharging as well. And I
Yeah.
know when we shared our experience, we realized other people around us are going through a lot of
Yeah.
changes and similar experiences. Something with 2023, I don't know what happened, but it's just a lot of changes going around. Um,
Yes, I like the word purge because I feel like that's what happened is in therapy, we talked about me purging a lot of unhealthy relationships, things that no longer serve me. And this year, what I'm doing is I'm restructuring.
mm,
I'm figuring out what my life looks like now. I flipped a page and how do I want it to do? But I'm also doing a lot of cleanup, meaning like places where I should have set boundaries. I'm now doing that and it's heavy work. Like I'm exhausted by now having to learn these new skills. So, which is why I feel like being in community with other folks that are going through this will be really helpful because you feel less alone.
oh no, definitely. I love that you said flip the page.
Yes.
So I feel like this upcoming workshop, it's flipping the page and rewriting the story.
Mm-hmm. Because we're going to integrate journaling too. So, a little bit about the workshop is Lizette is going to facilitate the sound bath, the Reiki, and some breath work. And on my end, I am going to help facilitate the journaling and the healing circle because obviously, right, when we are using these modalities, things are bound to come up. And so we want to make sure that you have a space to be able to process this after in community, in a circle, so that we can help guide and support you. And of course, we're going to have, because we're both coffee lovers and enthusiasts, so we're obviously going to have a coffee shop. So Anna from Atabi Coffee is going to be joining us with her amazing Dominican Republic coffee, which is actually a specialty, and I haven't been able to come across it here in California. My dear friend went to New York and found a coffee shop that sold it. So I was like, you know what, Anna, you are a unicorn. So let's have you at this event. And we will be having Wave of Mind journals that we will be also using during the event. So we are really diving into all different areas, right, Lizette? Like, sound, Reiki, breath, journaling, coffee, community. It's a great way to just recharge.
Yes, definitely. And being around other women that are going to similar experiences where we can all with each other, feel a sense of community, and just allow yourself to release everything that needs to be released. recharging, hopefully feeling back to balance and back to being yourself again. So that way you can rewrite
Hmm.
the story.
Yes, yes. And it might just be a start for some individuals, some women that are joining us, where it might mean a little bit more clarity, and that might mean that they need to continue doing a lot of this work after the event, but it's a start. Everybody is going to be at a different place at this event, and that's totally okay.
Oh no, definitely. Your journey is your journey. Everyone has a different experience. So
Yes, yes. Any sort of advice or a tip, was it that you would give somebody who is on the fence and is ready, is, contemplating, do I book this consultation and talk to Lizette about sound or Reiki? Anything that you would share?
definitely, um, I would say if you are feeling like you are in a place that you feel stuck and just need to have a shift or change of either your mind or emotion, I do invite you to join a session and come in with an intention of whatever you want to experience that's different from what you're currently experiencing. So if you're feeling a lot of stress, then come in with the intention of feeling back to balance or joy again. So really, if you are on the fence and you're going through a certain experience that you don't want to, come in with the idea that knowing that you can shift that experience to a more positive one.
Yes, beautiful. So as we wrap up today, I think we really touched on different topics. So we talked about the controversies of holistic healing methods and therapy. We also talked about what is the difference between going to a sound bath versus going to a traditional talk therapist. And we addressed the controversies around, or the stigma around, going to one of these practices. So I think that we really dove into so many different things, Lizette, and I am very appreciative of you and the work that you're doing. I'm glad that we have facilitators like yourself that are working alongside mental health practitioners like me and helping heal, because there is just so much going on in our world right now, and we all need to heal in one way or another. And so I want to invite you to share, how can people continue supporting the work that you're doing?
So you can follow me on Instagram. It's Florecera, FLORECER and or you can visit my website at florecerawellness.com. And there you can find all the classes that I teach throughout the week. So, yoga, I facilitate sound baths, and you can also find private sessions for sound, yoga, and Reiki. And you could also combine all of the modalities together. Also, you can join us on April so that way you can experience all of these modalities. Um,
Hmm.
so that way you can experience it.
Yes, yes. Come heal with us. We are motivated to help you really tap into your authentic self. So definitely join us April 13th in Long Beach. Thank you for everybody who took the time to listen to our episode. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, follow us on social. We are on all platforms. We are on YouTube, calidadholisticwellness.com, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Please make sure to share, repost. That all helps the podcast. And thank you for taking the time to listen to our conversation today. Thank you, and we will be back soon.
Thank you.